So no joke, Tomodachi Game was actually one of my more anticipated shows walking into this anime season. Even though I think if you were to take an average, it's probably like 8 out of 10 of these styles of shows. They're usually not that great. But the ones that are at the very least watchable are very fun. Those kind of death game, psychological games, betray your friends, betray people that you normally wouldn't push in front of a car, but offer them money to do so, and it'd be interesting to watch humanity scramble to keep what is their humanity. And to see an idea that's actually pretty basic when you strip it down to the fundamentals. It's just a group of people who all raised like $600 or so for this class trip, get stolen, and then they all get invited to the school, or at least a group of friends get invited to the school, all thinking the other is who invited them. And then in comes a children's anime character. I mean, everyone's going to be coming off of Squid Game as of late in terms of the most recent kind of like death game popular show. And I mean, it's hard not to see the similarities, even if that wasn't the first one to ever do it. It's definitely the most successful as of late. And to see them all basically scramble to keep their friendship intact as you have what should be a children's anime character basically saying, you know, you're going to complete a series of events and here's all these different rules. There's ways to screw over your common friend here, and in return, your debt will be halved as they all get a piece of the pie, but that piece of the pie is like 4 million yen in debt. And it was really interesting because initially my assumption was that this main character, Yuchi, was going to be a scumbag. Like, that's just kind of the impression I got because throughout the episode, they're talking about, or at the very least, their flashback with his backstory there. One person, seemingly a mother figure, saying friends are what's most important. Another person, a parental father figure. Grandfather, just a guy he knew, saying money's what's important. So very much, he's like putting on this persona that he's a family, friend man. But I was like, oh, he's probably ending up stealing it actually, and I actually thought he was gonna be the one behind this. And throughout the episode, you get the impression that no, like, it's definitely one or the other. And he's going to ultimately end up becoming the biggest asshole of them all, not because he's behind everything, but rather there's a traitor that he can't quite spot, and the fact that they're all going to pin the blame at the end there on the girl he clearly likes, and basically if you speak without reading the cards, this is one of the things where each of them take a turn, they read a question, one of those boards where you have to either pick yes or no, pretending that there's a spirit there when we all know there actually isn't. And the idea that basically for the first 4 of them, they get a card that says, pick your own question. And then there's these little kind of like in the fine print there about how you can basically screw over your common man there, or you can end up, you know, being the right kind of righteous person. But the 5th card not having the same one, it's just so cool to see how they're breaking apart so much trust in such a believable way. From what we saw before this shit all hit the fan, they clearly had a good friendship there. Like, it felt like, yeah, they had some rumblings, they had a little bit of drama with who likes who, and maybe getting clobbered on the side of the head because you wanted a kiss that wasn't warranted. But I like the idea that you get the impression that they're similar to any group of school friends, that they believe their friendship will never end and that through thick and thin they'll always be there for each other. But when money's on the table, and not just like a reward, it's not like, oh, you know, we're at this stage of the game, we're doing it so that you get a chunk of change. It's more so getting you out of the debt that for a high school student, they're not going to easily be able to do. And I love the idea that it's just one of those things where they're all secretly doubting that one of them is the traitor. Sure, they started all off being like, hey, if someone between us stole it, they must have had a reason and they believed their friends would come and save them. But as soon as there's ways to get the jump and make sure that you, because of course I know I didn't do it, so why should I get punished? You start seeing the cracks, and what should be strong friendship is magic ends up being all bets are off. All men for themselves. And I love that type of dynamic because this show is not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's not trying to be the most fresh and exciting thing of all time, but it's pretty damn confident with its first episode in terms of taking that kind of like, whether it's children's playground games, whether it's children's anime characters, and making them a bit more twisted. They didn't start the episode off and they didn't end the episode with a big character death or anything like that. Instead, they put the emphasis on the psychological thriller. And to me, that makes it a lot more interesting and exciting than even I was anticipating, and I thought this looked pretty damn fun to begin with. But I was totally expecting that someone was going to end up dead in this, because I just felt like that was the direction they're going. And throughout the episode, they definitely hint at what's going on, and it seems to be like an observation. Whether it's a psychological study about what people will do push come to shove, whether it's some big government conspiracy, I have no idea. but someone is watching and they want these kids to fail. I mean, they seem pretty pleased that within the first round they looked like they were about to fail. And if it wasn't for Yuichi kind of like basically talking out loud, saying a vulgar thing about, what color panties someone's wearing, but ultimately getting the penalty on himself so she wouldn't. It was interesting to see how they turn that on its head and how it's going to be interesting to see who the traitor actually is. Because one thing we have to keep in mind, there very well could be no traitor in this group. It very well could be that whoever is orchestrating this entire situation wants to see how long it takes for the human psyche to break and be corrupted, even if no one in their group actually was responsible. And the main reason for it, who the hell knows? Maybe an experiment, maybe they're just evil themselves. But I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if no one in this group actually took the money and this was all a ploy to watch people break. If it was someone within the group, I'm not going to be shocked in the slightest if the girl he ended up basically taking the fall for because it looked like she was about to get screwed over was the one responsible. But at the same time, that's just kind of throwing a dart at a board. Just that would be a twist that I could see coming. But as it stands, I think really if you guess it at this point, if there actually is a traitor, it is a lucky guess because we don't know too much other than the kind of clip note version that they showed us at the beginning of the episode. But overall, I really like this one. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be people who watch it like, these aren't for me, or I think it's going to be too obvious this person did it. But I think it was pretty confident in what it was doing. It didn't just start and end with a big character death or something like that. Instead, psychological battles and how people and their psyches are going to snap when these close friendship bonds are pushed to their limits when finances are involved. And once the debt starts getting cleared, it'll be interesting to see what other type of breaking points they'll reach when they can earn a very good buck. I wouldn't also be shocked in the slightest if this one rich kid, who apparently daddy has an unlimited bank account, actually is in debt himself, and maybe that's going to be like a traitor plotline sort of a thing. But either way, I like this a lot. I think the voice actors did what they need to, and I really like the presentation. I think one of the most interesting things I'm excited to see what they're actually going to pull off is with the OST, because OSTs for a show like this is interesting, because either they go so overboard the music takes away from the silence, the psychological despair, or they perfectly craft that eerie atmosphere, that OST that really seeps into your soul and makes you just, want to curl up and be like, God damn, this is really making me feel uncomfortable, similar to the characters. I have a feeling that there's going to be a minimal OST in a show like this, but I hope when we do hear it, it is going to be something that really fits the tone, because often, even shows I enjoy in this genre, I kind of feel like the OST is just there rather than actually adding anything and sometimes even subtracting from the experience. So that's the one thing I'm hoping for is going to be really memorable, is when it's there, something that actually makes you feel like your mind's breaking, similar to the characters experiencing that psychological trauma. I'm sure some people are going to say there wasn't anything too crazy about it, but in terms of like the lonely, isolating room, this almost like 3D, 2D mix with this children's character, it was just so creepy and cool, and I love the dramatic shots and how they really went inside certain characters' heads to really just make it an unnerving experience all around. I love this one. I am very excited for more, and yes, you will be getting weekly videos on this for sure, whether a lot of people like it or not, because I really enjoy talking about these types of shows, and I think they're some of the most exciting to cover weekly, because it really does get your mind racing about who you can trust and what everything actually means. Thoughts if you have any on Tomodachi Game Episode 1, you going to be keeping up with this one week by week, or you going to wait for it to be over and do a binge, or you just saying, know what, it's not for me. Let me know down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.